You want to write stories that readers remember long after they close the book. It all begins with one thing: your characters, not the plot, not the settings, but the people who live in your story. Today, we are diving into how to create powerful, believable, unforgettable characters. Whether you write like an outliner or a pencil, or you are somewhere in between. We are using examples from African literature, folklore, and modern storytelling. I will show you step by step how to shape characters who feel real, grow through challenges, and carry your story from beginning to end. Welcome to this lesson on creating strong story characters. Let's get started. Strong story characters. You have settled on an idea for your novel. You have narrowed it to a sentence or two, and you are ready to tackle what seems insurmountable task, that is developing your lead character. If you are an outliner, that is someone who outlined his novel first, it's time for character development, an endeavor not for whims. Spellbinding stories feature believable characters who feel knowledgeable. Yes, even if your genre is fantasy or allegory or futuristics, your character may even be a superhero, but he must be real and knowledgeable within your premise. I use female pronouns exclusively here to represent both genders, only to avoid the awkward repetition of he, she, or him, her, fully recognizing that many lead characters are female and so are a majority of readers. I'd love to impart some gem that would magically make you an expert at character development. But sorry, no shortcuts. This is as hard as it sounds. Fail at this task and it shows. You cheat your readers when your lead character doesn't develop and grow. No growth, no character arc. No character arc, fewer satisfied readers. Of character, building connections through believability. Developing strong characters is essential for readers' engagement. By creating relatable, flawed individuals, writers can foster emotional connections, making narratives resonate deeply while showcasing the human experience. Versus pencil. Understanding different writing approaches. Outliners versus pencil. Outliners take a different approach. They often know a lot about their lead characters before they start writing. Their preparation gives them advantage that pencils don't always have at the beginning of a draft. Outliners, they write with structure. That is, and outliners plan their stories in advance, including detailed outlines, character history, and major plot points. They also know a lot about their lead characters before they begin writing. Their preparation gives them a strong sense of direction and reduces uncertainty. While it may seem less adventurous, this method offers clarity and structure early on. While the Spencer, That is writing by discovery. They write by discovery. So they write by the seat of their pants without outline or pre-planned structures. They begin writing before knowing much about the characters or the plot. Characters often introduce themselves during the writing process and reveal their backstories as the story unfolds. So another point is this style is thrilling and risky. A pencil starts a story not fully knowing where it will go, and pencils rely on intuition, spontaneity, and discovery. When struck, pencils may need to pause and do the same exercises outliners do such as building character histories to keep the story moving. So pencils, as we said, get their name from the fact that they write by the seat of their pants. They don't use outliners. Instead, they rely on the process of discovery. So, as Stephen King advises, put interesting characters in difficult situations and write to find out what happens. So, to a new writer or to an outliner, this may sound exciting and dangerous. Wading into a story and counting on characters to emerge and take over. Believe me, it's both. Fellow pencils, don't ignore or dismiss the value of planning. We still need some idea of who is populating our stories. And when we get stuck, there's no shame in going back to do some of the exercises outliners rely on. If you are a pencil, you may not have the patience for it and might rather dive right into the writing. Do what works best for you. Regardless of whether you are an outliner or a pencil, strong character development and character arcs are essential. A novel succeeds or fails on how well its characters grow and change. So consider some powerful African literature characters. Example, Anansi. So Anansi is embodies as wisdom and cleverness in storytelling culture in Ghana. And we have our famous female warrior, Ya Santwa, who represents strength and courage in leadership, while Okonkwo also illustrates the struggle between tradition and change. So there are other African literature or characters that you can use to develop stories. So each character must represent something. An exercise for you. As mentioned above, the Anansi, Yasantua, and Okonkwo. So consider some of African literature's most memorable characters. You can name the novels they come from and what they have in common. Looking at mistakes some writers make when developing characters. That is, trying to make your character a hero. That is, making him a perfect hero. Okay, please try to avoid that. What readers can identify with perfect? Potential hero, yes. Honorable, sure. With a bent towards doing the right thing, yes. But perfect, no. Know that as human as we are, we cannot be perfect. Though we are striving to be perfect, we cannot be perfect throughout or all the time. So in the end, your hero will likely rise to the occasion and win against all odds. But your character has to grow into that from a stance of reality, humanity, okay? And make sure you render a lead character your reader can identify with. And in your ending, he will see himself with the same potential. That way, your character arc becomes also a reader arc. So please avoid making your character a hero. For you to try your hands on. Develop a character who feels real and could become unforgettable. So please try this at your spare time or your free time. Character development. It is how your character responds to obstacles, both internal and external, and how he changes by the end of the story. In the most memorable classic, especially those with happy endings, the character develops skills and strength that make him heroic. The more challenges he faces, the better of your story and for its arc. Resist the temptation to make his life easy. Only the toughest challenges transform character. Okay, so put yourself in a character. The challenges you face strengthen you. It shapes you and it also transforms your character. So when you are developing a character, bring that to bear. We've seen in the previous slides the mistakes that writers make when they are developing character. So now let's move on to steps to character development. Number 1, introduce him early and by name. The biggest mistakes new writers make is introducing their main character too late. As a rule, he should be the first person on stage, and the readers should be able to associate his name with how they see him. Establish a name early. Doing that creates a clear identity and helps the reader connect instantly with the character. Also, ensure a cultural accuracy. Ensure that the character details reflect authentic cultural backgrounds, enhancing depth and making character relatable to diverse audiences. And his personality. Give him a personality hint. That is, a subtle trait revealed through action or dialogue can provide important insights into a character's motivation and design without lengthy exposition. So in all, naming your character can be most as stressful as naming a newborn. You want something interesting and memorable, but not unusual or outrageous. Call for telling names like Prudence and Truth and Pride, but modern ones should be subtler. I wrote a Christmas parable where the main character was Kofi Doyi, meaning doubt in Ewe, and Ewe is a Ghanaian dialect, and his fiancée was Ama Inshira. Inshira means a blessing. Okay, so for standard novels, typical names are forgettable. Ethnicity is also important. You shouldn't have a Greek name as Baba Jackson. So bear in mind that your goal is to connect reader and character. So the name should reflect its heritage and perhaps even hint at its personality. In many Akan folktales, for example, a timid and troublesome character might be named Kwekukra to reflect its nature. Naturally, we treat heroes with more respect. The time is it needs. But before you name your character, make sure you do a proper search, either from encyclopedia or online. You look for names associated with both sexes. Okay, that will help you a lot. Don't just give a name that comes to mind without doing a proper search. So be sure the name is historically and geographically accurate. You wouldn't have characters named Amina and Kofi, for instance, in a story set in ancient China. I often turn to African names archives and regional history books to find names for characters. For example, first name of a current Ghanaian or African leader with the surname of a notable, yet not overly famous, historical figures, so readers don't assume any direct connection. Give readers a look at him. Give readers a look at him. So here, make sure you use action. Action depicts characters to reveal their traits, making them come alive in the reader's imagination. So you want a clear picture of your character in your mind's eye. But don't make the mistake of forcing your reader to see him exactly the way you do. Sure, height, hair, and eye color and physicality, whether athletic or not, are important. But does it really matter whether your reader visualizes your blonde heroine as Lupita or Genevieve Inaji, or your dark-haired hero as John Jomelo or Winston Duke? Again, use dialogue. So craft an authentic, unique to your character's voice, revealing their background and emotional states through words. So as I teach regarding description of the sky and the weather and settings, it's important that your description of your main character is not rendered as a separate element. Rather, layer in what he looks like through dialogue and during the action. Avoid lists. Show, don't tell, by integrating descriptions naturally within the narrative, allowing character traits to emerge organically. Hints are just enough to trigger the theater of the reader's mind, so he forms his own mental image. Thousands of readers might have thousands of slightly varied images of the character, which is all right, provided you have given him enough information to know whether your hero is big or small, attractive or not, and athletic or not. Whether you are an outliner, in essence, interviewing your character as if he were sitting right in front of you, or a pencil, getting to know him as he reveals himself to you. The more you know about him, the better you will tell your story. So questions to ask: how old is he? What is his nationality? Does he have scars, piercing, tattoo, physical imperfection, or any deformity? What does his voice sound like? Does he have an accent? So looking at your character by giving readers a look at him, readers often have trouble differentiating one character from another. So if you can give him a tag in the form of a unique gesture or mannerism, that helps set him apart. You won't come close to using all of the information you know about him, but the more you know, the more plot ideas will occur to you. The better acquainted you are with your character, the better your readers will come to know him and care. 3. Give him a back story. Backstory is everything that happens before chapter 1. So dig deep. What has shaped your character into the person he is today? Things you should know, whether you include them in your novel or not. So give him a family background. Explore their familiar ties and influences on behavior. Give him an educational journey. Consider their educational journey and how it shapes view. Your character might have some fears, personal fears, so you need to identify fear that drive their actions and decisions, and worldview development. Examine experiences that shape their beliefs and value. So things you should know, whether you include them in your novel or not. The when, where, and to whom he was born, that is the family background, brothers and sisters, their names and ages, and their education, where he attended high school, college, and graduate school. He might have a political affiliations, occupation, income, goals, skills and talents, his spiritual life, his friends, his best friend, whether he is single, dating, or married, worldview, personality type, what triggers him to get angry, his joy, pleasures, fear, anything else relevant to your story, you need to add to give him that back story. 4. Start building character. Make sure he is human, vulnerable, and flawed. So choose a flaw for your character. Select a relatable flaw for your character. So make sure you define his inner conflict. Identify challenges your character might overcome or must overcome. Begin your character arc. Outline your character's growth throughout the story. It shouldn't be flat. So if you introduce your character, make sure he grows. It shouldn't be flat. It should grow. And then engage with readers. Create connections through authentic character experiences. So here, if you are making sure your character is human, has vulnerability, and has flawed. Even our legendary heroes have flaws and weaknesses. For Koku Anansi, it is greed and tricky turning against him. For warriors like Yasantwa, it's the burden of leadership and sacrifices. A lead character without human quality is impossible to identify with, but make sure his flaws aren't deal breakers. They should be forgivable, understandable, and identifiable. Be careful not to make your hero irredeemable. For instance, someone who is too timid, too fearful, too careless, or too clueless, like a village watchman who shows up without his torchlight or batteries. You want a character with whom your readers can relate, and to do that, he needs to be vulnerable. So create an event that subtly exhibits strength of character and spirit. For example, does your character show respect to a cocoa seller and recognize her by name? Would he treat a trotro mate the same way he treats his market queen? If he is running late but witnesses an emergency, does he stop and help? These are called pet the dog moments, where an otherwise bigger than life personality does something out of character, something that might be considered beneath him. Readers always remember such poignant episodes, and they make your character's development even more dramatic. It was a young man who gave up a chance to travel abroad to run his family shop, sacrificing his dream of exploring the world so he would take over the humble community savings alone, making a stand against the ruthless tycoon, Chief Okonkwo. Truly heroic in this beloved African story. Want to turn your John Domelo into a young man who gave up a chance to travel abroad to run his family shop. So make him real. Give him a pet the dog moment. Step 5. Potential heroism. But also give him classic, potentially heroic qualities. Moral, give him a moral courage. Heroes act rightly even when it's difficult. Hidden strength. Your character should have a hidden strength. Strength often emerges in unexpected, challenging moments. Make sure he also has he rises to challenges, that is, overcoming adversities, reveals true character and resilience. Unwritten potential. Every character has untapped ability waiting to shine. So while striving to make your main character real and human, be sure to also make him heroic or implant within him at least the potential to be a hero. In the end, after he has learned all the lessons he needs to form his failure, to get out of the terrible trouble you plunged him into, he must rise to the occasion and score a great moral victory. He can have a weakness for chocolate or a fear of snakes, but he must show up and face the music when the time comes. A well-developed character should be extraordinary but relatable. Never allow your protagonist to be the victim. It is certainly okay to allow him to face obstacles and challenges, but never portray him as a wimp or a coward. So here, give your character qualities that captivate and compel the reader to continue. For example, a character with a humble upbringing, in bracket an underdog, rises to the occasion, or a character with a hidden strength or ability subtly reveals it early in the story and later uses it as an unusual or extraordinary way. Make him a hero and you make him unforgettable. Step 6. Your character's inner life. Emphasize his inner life as well as his surface problems. What physically happens in the novel is one thing. Your hero needs trouble, a problem, a quest, a challenge, something that drives the story. But just as important as your character's primary internal conflict, this will determine his inner dialogue. Growing internally will usually contribute more to your character arc than the surface story. So you need to ask yourself the following question. What keeps your character, that is him, awake at night? What is his blind spot? What are his secrets? What embarrasses him? What passion drives him? So mix and match details from people you know and yourself to create both the inner and outer person. When he faces a life or death situation, you will know how he should respond. So know that you are creating a character who is real, that readers will be relatable to. So your character should have a secret, and the character should have a hidden aspect of themselves. The blind spot is every character has areas they don't see clearly. And the fears. Fear drives character, motivation, and decision making. And what is passion? Characters grow through their intense interest and desire. So that is the inner life of your character. Bring it to bear. Let your readers know, or let your readers see in the story. Step 7. Use your experiences. Use your experiences. Draw upon your own experience in character development. The fun of being a novelist is getting to embody the characters we write about. I can be a young girl, an old man, a boy, a father, a grandmother, another race, a villain, or a different political or spiritual persuasion, etc. The list goes on and the possibilities are endless. So the best way to develop a character is to, in essence, become that character. You can't develop a character outside outside yourself. So imagine yourself in every situation he or she find himself, facing every dilemma, answering every question. How would you react if you were your character? If your character finds himself in mortal danger, imagine yourself in that predicament. Maybe you have never experienced such a thing, but you can conjure it in your head. Think back to the last time you felt in danger. Multiply that by 1,000 and become your character. What ran through your mind when you believed you were home alone and heard footsteps across the floor above? Or have you had a child suddenly go missing in a busy store? Have you ever had to master the courage to finally speak your mind and set somebody straight? There is nothing like personal experience to help you develop character. So you draw an emotional memory for your character. That's drawing from your own experience and feeling. And then embodying character. Immerse yourself in your character's perspective. Personal insight. Utilize unique insights for authentic character voice and making it relatable moment. Infuse relatable memories to enhance connection. Number 8. Show, don't tell. Techniques for engaging character presentation. You have heard this one before, and you will hear it again. If there's one cardinal rule of fiction, this is it. It also applies to character development. Give your readers credit by trusting them to deduce character qualities by what they see in your scenes and hear in your dialogue. If you have to tell about your character in narrative summary, you have failed your reader. Your reader has a mind, an imagination. Using it is part of the joy of reading. So action matter. Actions reveal character traits and motivation, and there should be a dialogue impact. It conveys relationship and emotional states effectively. Speaking gestures. Okay, gestures speak a lot. Gestures can express unspoken thoughts and feeling profoundly. Choices reflect. Choices illustrate values and influence character development significantly. So, as the life of your character unfolds, show who your character is through what he says, his body language, his thought, and what he does. Would rather be told. Kwame was one of those friendly type who treated everyone the same, from the powerful to the lowly. Or be shown this. How's that grandson doing, Osei? Kwame asked the elevator operator. In Kansas, right. Osei's doing great, thanks. From the hospital yesterday. Vacation was the tonic. Bob, Kwame told the doorman, you are trained as a movie star. As he settled into the back seat of the car, Kwame said, tell me your name and how long you have been driving Uber. Show and don't tell. Step number 9. Research deeply. Conduct thorough research. So, interview. Conduct an interview. Speak with individuals to gain real insight. Any character you are writing on, be it a teacher, a doctor, an engineer of a particular field, conduct an interview. Also, watch people to capture genuine behavior and reaction. Learn profession. Study various careers to enrich character backgrounds and their cultural context. Explore cultural nuances that shape characters' perspective. So here, make sure you resist the temptation to write about something you haven't experienced before conducting thorough research. Imagination can take only Imagination can take you only so far, but you can bet the first time you guess at something, astute readers will call you on it. For example, I can imagine myself as a man. I had a father. I have a husband. I have sons-in-law and grandsons, a male assistant, men colleagues. So I can guess at their feelings and emotions, but I will always be handicapped by the simple fact that I am not a man. I recently ran into an old friend who told me he was homeless. I mentioned to some men friends that him because he looked put together, as if he had been to the barbering shop. I said, if you were living in your car, would you spend money on getting your hair cut? Naturally, that's the last thing a woman would think about. But men in my orbit said, sure, they could see it. Camouflaging your predicament and maintaining a modicum of self-respect. Say you are writing about what you had felt if you lost a child. I hope you would only be guessing about such horror, but to write about it with credibility, take thorough research. You would have to interview someone who has endured such a tragedy and has made the time to be able to talk about it. Is your character a teacher, a police officer, a CEO, or a member of another profession with which you have no personal experience? Spend time in a classroom. Interview a teacher. Arrange a ride along with a cop. Interview a CEO. Don't base your hero on images from movies and TV shows. The last thing you want is a stereotype reader cannot identify with and whom some will see through instantly. You will find that most people love talking about their lives and professions. Character development in African storytelling example. We all have a favorite unforgettable book, television, or movie character. A well-written novel that follows a classic story structure plunges its main character into terrible trouble quickly. Then it turns up the heat and fosters change and growth in the character from the beginning. That is the very definition of a character arc. A classic example is Kuku Anansi from West Africa folklore, so specific and consistent in the portrayal of Anansi's cunning, selfish, selfish behavior that its very name has become synonymous with tricky and self-interest. Yet what readers can fail to try at the brilliant character arc that sees him become an entirely new man, joyful, generous, and loving, who learns to feel again. So, Koku Anansi, a tale of growth through wit and wisdom. Kwesi Mensah, a story of resilience amid personal tragedy. So, Kwesi Mensah is someone who was struck down with a cancer and he has to overcome. So he tries means of selling illegal drugs. In the end, it destroys his own life, his family, and many other lives. He started well, but ended in disaster. So you see how it goes. A character should start well, and the ending can be destroyed or transformed or reformed. So there's possibility no better example of character development than in the Palm One adventure of Koku Anansi. Koku Anansi, a well-known tale retold across West Africa. Kweku, with a sharp tongue and mischievous humor, narrates the story with honesty that is sometimes unforgettable, uncomfortable, but always revealing. He escapes the strict guidance of Nanachia, who tries to reform him, as well as the hardship of living with his wayward, drunken uncle. Along the way, he befriends Kojo, an oppressed village youth seeking freedom from unfair servitude. Kweku lies, tricks, and schemes his way through forests and villages, learning to survive, pushing through danger, and slowly maturing into a young man who chooses to do what is right, even when the consequences would cost him everything. Development worksheet. We have a worksheet for you to try your hands on at home. If you are an outliner, a character arc worksheet like this one can help you get to know your hero. And if you are a pencil, you may not have the patience for it and might rather dive right into the writing. Do what is best for you. Development worksheet. Develop your character and keep all the information in a single location. You can print for each character you write. So this is the worksheet. You can print it and develop it anytime you are developing or you are writing a novel or a fiction. So this is it for joining me today. Our stories shape our communities and strong characters bring those stories to life. Keep crafting, keep growing, and keep telling stories with purpose. If you found this lesson helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss a new creative writing lesson. Share this with another writer who needs it, and let's continue building a powerful community of African storytellers. See you in the next lesson.